Imagine that you have a personal safe in your mind, not in a bank or a house. Then, consider what would happen if you left the box open for anyone to see what's inside. Then, outside opinions would start to influence you, criticism would affect you, and what should be yours would become an open field for others to control your life. Stoics, who were experts in the art of mental discipline, understood the importance of keeping some things secret, not out of mistrust, but because reserve and silence are powerful tools to protect your inner peace and purpose in a world where social media pushes us to share everything from our feelings to what we eat for breakfast. It is easy to forget that there are things that are better kept to ourselves. Today, we will examine 10 areas of our lives that, in accordance with Stoic principles, we should learn to keep secret. These include our innermost desires and plans, as well as our successes and setbacks. First, consider your future plans. When you share them with others, especially when they are still in their early stages, you expose yourself to a plethora of opinions, doubts, and criticisms. Even well-meaning people may project their fears onto you, and if it doesn't work, that is extremely dangerous, or worse, you may believe you are ready for something of this nature. This can cause doubts in your mind and restrain your impulses, which is why the Stoics teach us that our future plans should be kept secret until they are mature and ready to run. Epictetus stated it quite clearly. Don't say you'll do something, show it by doing it. In addition to being stoic, this suggestion is really useful. By keeping quiet about your objectives, you not only shield yourself from other influences, but also develop an inner energy that helps you stay focused. Each little step you take toward your goal becomes more genuine, because you are doing it for yourself and not for other people's approval or recognition. Keeping your plans a secret also has a powerful psychological effect. You are not satisfied with the sense of accomplishment that comes from getting praise for something you haven't done yet because, let's face it, when we share an ambitious plan, other people's words of admiration can sometimes make us feel as though we have already accomplished it by removing the motivation we need to put in the necessary effort. Another issue is energy. Discussing your ideas might release energy that should be used to carry them out. It's like releasing a gas bottle too soon. All that pressure is gone, and the outcome is less effective if you keep your objectives to yourself. You ensure that you are putting all of your efforts into making it happen right now. It's not about being a recluse and not talking to anyone. You will never need allies or specific advice, but the key is to be selective. Ask yourself if this person can truly help you, or if it's the second thing better, keep working quietly. Imagine this scenario. You have a fantastic plan to start a project, and you tell everyone about it. Then, all of a sudden, people ask you how much money you'll need, what you'll do if it doesn't work, and why you didn't do something safer. Now imagine the same scenario, but this time, you remain silent, work on your project, lay the foundations, and when you finally launch it, there are no questions because it is already a reality. You can see the difference. Your results speak for themselves, as Marcus Aurelius used to say. Actions speak higher than words. Don't tell your dreams. Live as if you had already realized them. Second thing, your income and your economic situation. This topic is delicate. True, we have all been taught not to talk about money in public, but few really understand why it is so important to keep it a secret. Stoicism gives us a very interesting perspective on this. Your economic situation, whether good or bad, can generate judgments, envy, expectations, and even alter the way people perceive you, which is why the Stoics recommend that your income and financial status be a topic that you keep to yourself. Epictetus said, "Wealth is not about having large possessions, but about having few needs, and here is the key. When you share information about your income, you often don't if you do it to inform, but to impress, buck, or even compare yourself with others. It is dangerous terrain. If your economic situation is good, you can arouse envy or attract people interested only in your resources. On the other hand, if you are not going through your best moment, you can be the subject of judgments or worse, pity. Money has the power to influence relationships. When people know how much you earn, their expectations towards you can change. If they know that you have resources, they may expect you to always pay the bill or that you will be the one to solve financial problems. Additionally, if you are in a difficult financial circumstance, they could see you critically or undervalue or question your skills. In both situations, how other people see you starts to affect how you feel about yourself, and that is something we should avoid. Additionally, discussing money might lead to needless tension. Comparisons are unavoidable. You can feel inadequate if someone makes more money than you, or you might make more money than others and feel the need to defend your achievement. Ultimately, you only succeed in diverting your attention from the things that are really important, such as how you manage your resources, how you live contentedly with what you have, and how you strive for improvement from your own viewpoint rather than that of others. What are you going to do now? It's as easy as being private. You don't have to tell everyone how much you make or what you buy. You don't have to feel pressured to respond politely if someone asks you directly. It's sufficient to keep this knowledge hidden since I choose to keep it private. It provides you a sense of power and mystery in addition to safeguarding your mental health. It's crucial to speak about money with someone you trust, such as your spouse, a financial counselor, or someone who can help you get out of your current predicament. This does not imply that you should never talk about money. Even in such situations, however, consider who you are sharing that information with and why. Keep in mind that money does not determine your worth as a person. Focusing less on your earnings allows you to concentrate on what really counts. Living your life in accordance with your values and accomplishing your objectives. As Seneca once said, "Wealth is the servant of a wise man and the master of a fool." Third, don't let money or the talk of it control your life. This may seem counterintuitive, but it has a great Stoic value. You should not share your personal and emotional problems with everyone. This doesn't mean you have to suppress your emotions or refrain from seeking help when you need it. But the Stoics teach us that it can be more detrimental than beneficial to discuss our internal struggles with anyone who is willing to listen. True happiness, according to Seneca, is living in the now without worrying about the future or harboring resentment against the past. What happens when you talk about your personal problems with people who are not trained to help you or who do not have your best interests in mind instead of relief? What you get is a mixture of unsolicited advice, judgments, or even comments that can intensify your anxiety or sadness. Oversharing our difficulties can cause us to focus more on the problem than on the solution. Stoicism invites us to reflect before to talk. Ask yourself, this person can really help me, or I'm just looking to vent. Talking about our problems is not wrong, but doing it indiscriminately can leave you emotionally exposed, which makes you more vulnerable to the opinion and criticism of others. Sometimes people can use your problems as a weapon, either to judge you or to decrease your confidence. On the other hand, keeping silent about your problems does not mean that you isolate yourself. It means that you must carefully choose the people with whom you share your emotional burden. Look for mentors, true friends, or professionals who can listen and guide you without judgment. In addition to introspection, it is a powerful tool. Instead of immediately turning to others, spend time understanding your emotions and analyzing what you can do to improve your situation. Another important thing, when you talk too much about your problems, you risk making them your identity. The more you repeat your difficulties, the more you begin to define yourself by them, and the less energy you have left to solve them. On the other hand, silence allows you to stay in control. You can process what you feel, look for solutions, and move forward without being tied to the narrative of your problems. Imagine that you have a bad day and you decide to tell several people. Each one gives you different advice, and suddenly, instead of feeling better, you are more confused than before. Now imagine that instead you decide to sit quietly, reflect on what's bothering you, and make a conscious decision about how to deal with it. That's the power of Stoicism. Return control. As Marcus Aurelius said, it is not what happens to you, but how you respond to it, what matters. Talking less about your personal problems, giving you space to focus on solutions and to prove to yourself that you are capable of overcoming any obstacle. Fourth thing, your acts of kindness and charity. Now we go with something that is often misinterpreted, your acts of kindness and charity. In a world where social media encourages us to show every single thing we do, even good deeds, Stoics invite us to keep this a secret. Why? Because true goodness doesn't need spectators. When you do good with the intention of being seen by others, the purity of that act is diluted and becomes an attempt at validation or recognition. Seneca expressed it brilliantly. The benefit that is done in silence, kindness, is doubly valuable. According to Stoicism, it should not be a show. When you help someone, the greatest reward, it should be the internal satisfaction of knowing that you did the right thing, not the applause or likes that you can receive. Sharing your acts of charity may seem harmless, But in many cases, it can feed the ego instead of strengthening your virtue. In addition, when you make public what you give or who you help, you can generate a negative impact on the person who received your support. No one wants to feel humiliated or exposed for needing help. The dignity of those who receive your kindness should always be a priority. By keeping your actions secret, you demonstrate respect and genuine compassion. On the other hand, being reserved with your acts of charity also protects you. When you get used to doing good in silence, you eliminate the risk of falling into the trap of doing to be seen and focusing on the true purpose of your actions, contributing to the well-being of others and strengthening your character. Think about this. If you help someone and then share it with the world, the act was really altruistic or just an attempt to gain recognition. Stoicism teaches us to practice virtue for virtue's sake, not for what we can earn in return. The inner satisfaction of knowing that you have done something good, it should be enough. Imagine this scenario: you decide to donate money or time to a cause you care about. You don't tell anyone, you just do it because you believe that act is the right thing to do. Although invisible to the world, it has immense value for your personal growth. You have reinforced your character, practiced virtue, and demonstrated that true impact does not need spotlights. Marco Aurelio summed it up perfectly: do the either discreetly, like a bee that produces honey without announcing it to the world. This approach not only protects your humility, but also reminds you that kindness is not a tool to impress, but a practice to grow. Fifth thing, your weaknesses. Let's talk now about something that many feel the need to share, but that the Stoics advise to protect: your weaknesses. We live in a time where being vulnerable is fashionable, which it's not bad when it comes to building genuine relationships. However, not all people deserve to know your weaknesses. Exposing your weaknesses openly can make you vulnerable, not only emotionally, but also in your relationships and in your relationships. How others perceive you. Epictetus said, "Remember that whoever harms you has no power over your soul, only over your body or your external circumstances. But what if you yourself give power to others by showing your weaknesses without a filter? Doing so can invite the wrong people to manipulate you or take advantage of you." Not everyone has the best intentions, and even if you are surrounded by people apparently trustworthy, it does not mean that you should share with all your internal frailties. This does not mean that you should hide your weaknesses completely or live pretending that you are invulnerable. Being stoic is not being of stone. It is about choosing wisely who you entrust that part of you to reflect. This person will help me grow, or will simply use this information to judge or harm me. If the answer is not clear, maybe it is better to keep silent. Share less about your weaknesses. It also gives you space to work on them. Stoicism teaches us that we must face our frailties with courage and patience, but that work is internal, not a public spectacle. Talk about your weaknesses without being ready to face them can make you feel more exposed and insecure, moving away from the progress you seek. Also remember that your weaknesses are not permanent. They are areas of improvement, challenges that you can operate with effort and discipline. When you decide to talk less about them, you are accepting that you do not need the validation of others to face them. Your path is yours, and your strength lies in how you manage those parts of you that still need to grow. Think in this example: if you feel insecure about your skills at work and start sharing it with colleagues who are not necessarily your allies, you could end up being perceived as someone who is not incompetent, even if it is not true. On the other hand, if you recognize that insecurity in private, you work on improving and strengthening your skills, your growth will speak for itself. Marcus Aurelius summed it up wisely: no one can shame you. If you are not ashamed of yourself, keeping your weaknesses a secret doesn't mean ignoring them, but protecting them as you work to turn them into strengths. Music. Sixth thing, your personal relationships. Let's talk about your personal relationships, those connections you build with friends, family, partner, or even colleagues. Sometimes we're tempted to share every detail of our relationships with others, the good things, the fights, the moments of vulnerability. But here's the Stoic advice: keep your life personal. Your relationships are sacred and should be protected from judgment, outside influence, and unnecessary curiosity. Seneca said, "Tranquility comes from not allowing external things to disturb you, and nothing is more external than others' opinions about your relationships." When you share intimate details about your personal life, you give other people permission to make judgments or even interfere in what should be only between you and you. Furthermore, the other person's remarks are frequently based on their own prejudices or experiences rather than what is best for you. A relationship, whether it be friendship, family, or a romantic partnership, is like a garden that requires care, protection, and most importantly, privacy to flourish. If you share too much, you risk exposing it to unneeded storms, and outside criticism, gossip, or comparisons can erode trust and make issues with the other person more complicated. It may be settled more easily and straightforwardly in this manner. However, this does not imply that you should avoid discussing your relationships during difficult times. It might be beneficial to ask a trusted someone for guidance or assistance, but it's important to be selective about who you share such facts with. Whether you are unsure, ask yourself whether this individual can provide impartial advice or if they are only there to listen and provide their opinion. It may help to think about this first. It's also important to keep in mind that disclosing too much about your connections may influence how others see individuals who are close to you. For example, if you talk about your relationship or family problems all the time, others would probably think poorly of their character. Telling your friends about your fight with your spouse might lead to social stress, even if the issue can become better. To several friends, each one offers a different piece of advice, and ultimately, rather than soothing you down, you become even more perplexed. Now assume that you and your spouse decide to have a frank conversation, think things through together, and resolve the issue without outside help. That is the power of privacy. It allows you to resolve conflicts from a place of calm and clarity. Marcus Aurelius expressed it clearly. Harmony is within you. Do not allow the voices of others break it. Keeping your personal relationships private not only protects those bonds, but also strengthens your ability to handle your emotions and problems in a mature way. Seventh thing, your long-term goals. Let's talk now about your long-term goals, those dreams and aspirations that inspire you and push you to move forward. It may be tempting to share them with others seeking approval, encouragement, or just a pat on the back, but the Stoics remind us that great goals deserve silence and constant work, not advance announcements. Your plans are yours, and keeping them secret is a way to protect them until they become a reality. Epictetus said, "First, tell yourself what you will be, then do what you have to do." And here is the key. It is not about what you say you will do, but what you actually do. When you share your goals with too easily, you can fall into the trap of talking more than you act. This can create a false sense of progress, since praise and validation from others can make you feel that you have already achieved something, even if you are just starting out. In addition, when you make your goals public, you expose them to criticism, doubts, and opinions that can throw you off track. Some people could project their own fears and insecurities onto your goals. Sounds very difficult, or what if it doesn't work? Even if these words don't have bad intentions, they can sow doubts in your mind and slow down your progress. Keeping your goals secret also helps you focus better. When you don't feel the need to explain or justify what you're doing, you can devote all your energy to working on it. It's like building a fortress. You don't need to announce to all the steps you're taking, you just need to work quietly until the fortress is finished and speak for itself. This doesn't mean that you should never share your goals. Sometimes having a mentor, partner, or trusted person to help you structure them can be invaluable. But even in those cases, be selective. You don't need a multitude of opinions. You just need the right guidance to move forward. Think about this example. You're planning to start a business. If you tell it too soon, you could receive endless suggestions, criticisms, and questions that, instead of helping you, they could overwhelm you. But if you work in silence, build your plan, and take concrete steps, when you finally present it to the world, it will be so well-founded that there will be no room for doubt. Marco Aurelio summed it up perfectly. Silent work is what generates the sweetest fruits. So keep your long-term goals in your heart, work on them with dedication, and let your achievements speak for you when it arrives. Fears are a natural part of life. We all have them, however. The Stoics teach us that our deepest fears should be treated with care and ideally kept secret, not because we should ignore or be ashamed of them, but because sharing them indiscriminately can cause you to lose control over them and, in the worst case, others to use them in a way that is not the case. You against Marcus Aurelius. He said, "If you are disturbed by something external, the pain does not come from the thing itself, but from your interpretation of it, and that is something you can change." Sharing your fears too easily can make that interpretation reinforce itself by feeding the monster instead of facing it. When you speak open to what terrifies you, you run the risk of magnifying the problem and turning it into an even greater barrier. Moreover, not everyone deserves to know your vulnerabilities. There are those who could use that information to manipulate you, control your decisions, or even sabotage you. Fears are like cracks in armor. When someone finds them, they can direct their arrows right there. Keep quiet about your fears. Leave those cracks while you work on repairing them. Stoicism invites us to face our fears with courage, but that process must be internal and thoughtful. Rather than talking about your fears, work on understanding them. Ask yourself, where does this fear come from? Is it rational or simply an exaggerated interpretation of my mind? Reflecting on them in silence helps you regain control and strengthen your character. Of course, there are times when sharing your fears can be helpful, but always with people you trust, such as a mentor, a therapist, or someone who inspires you with security and wisdom. It is still important that you are aware of how and how much you share. Imagine that you are afraid of public speaking. If you constantly mention it, you can reinforce that insecurity to the point where you feel unable to try. Now, if you decide to face that fear in silence, practicing little by little and reflecting on your progress, you will find that your fear loses strength with each step you take. Seneca also reminds us, the brave man is not free from fear, but act in spite of it. Talking less about your fears gives you the opportunity to turn them into personal challenges, into goals to overcome instead of chains that tie you to the ninth thing, your successes and achievements. Now let's enter a terrain where many fall. Talking about your successes and achievements sounds logical to want to share the good things that happen to you. True, however, the Stoics teach us that although celebrating your triumphs is important to do so in a public or indiscriminate way, it can be harmful both to you and to your relationships, because when you talk too much about your successes, you run the risk of feeding the ego, attracting envy and losing the humility that true progress requires. Marcus Aurelius, being one of the most powerful men of his time, wrote, "Remind yourself that you are only one man among many and that the recognition of others does not add value to your achievements." This advice invites us to reflect on an essential truth. The value of what we do does not depend on what they know, but on how it transforms us and how it impacts the world in a silent way. When you burn your achievements, you can fall into two common traps. The first is to seek external validation when sharing your successes. You may be unconsciously asking for recognition, which can make you dependent on the opinion of you. The second is to generate resentment or envy in those around you, even among those who really do not all have the emotional maturity to genuinely rejoice in the success of others. Keep your achievements a secret, or at least not make them the center of attention. Has surprising benefits. First, it helps you keep the focus on the process, not on the results. When you don't need to tell everyone what you have achieved, you have more energy to keep working on your next goal. Second, reinforce your humility, an essential virtue in Stoicism. Seneca said, "True greatness is to be great without feeling superior." Of course, this does not mean that you should not celebrate your achievements. Of course, you should do it, but privately or with close people who genuinely support you. Celebrate with yourself, reflect on what you learned and how you can improve. That introspection is more valuable than any public applause. Imagine that you achieved something important, like a promotion at work or completing a personal project. If you share it with too many people, you can attract unnecessary comments, criticism disguised as advice, or even pressure to do better next time. Now, if you decide to enjoy your success quietly, reflect on what you learned and use it as motivation for your next steps. The impact will be much more positive and lasting. Epictetus reminds us, "The one who seeks to be admired is at the mercy of others. Be great in your own eyes, not in others' eyes." Keep silent about your achievements gives you freedom. Freedom to work on your own terms, to grow without external expectations, and to enjoy the journey without distractions. 10th thing, your failures and failures. We are going to talk about something that, although it may seem opposite to the previous point, is equally related: your failures and failures. In our search for connection and empathy, we often feel the need to share our failures with others. But the Stoics teach us that talking about our failures indiscriminately is not always the best strategy. In fact, silence on this topic can help you grow faster and protect your personal confidence. Seneca said, "Failures are nothing more than lessons in disguise. Learn from them, but don't cling to them." When you share your failures openly, you run the risk of people seeing them as a central part of your identity rather than just events in your learning journey, and not everyone will know how to respond. Some may use that information to judge you, while others might minimize your efforts or give you advice that, far from helping you, discourages you. Failures are valuable, but not everyone has the right or the ability to understand them from your perspective. Reflecting on them privately allows you to process them clearly, draw the necessary lessons, and focus on continuous improvement without the distraction of outside opinions. Talking about your mistakes too often can cause you to get stuck in them, as if repeating them makes them more real or more meaningful than they really are. This doesn't mean you should ignore your failures or pretend that they never happen. Stoicism doesn't deny life's difficulties. It simply encourages us to face them with inner strength. If you need to talk about your failures, do it with people you trust, those who you know will provide you with constructive support, not unnecessary judgment, and still choose carefully what details you share and for what purpose. Imagine that you have a project that didn't go as you expected. If you decide to share it with someone who doesn't understand the context, considering the significance of the process, you can feel worse rather than come up with answers. You can become better if you think about that failure in silence. You will be astonished at how you can turn that experience into something constructive without having to reveal yourself, so you go on. The words, failures are merely temporary interruptions on an eternal path of improvement. Your mistakes are nothing more than steps in the path to your greatness, were brilliantly put by Marcus Aurelius. Giving them the space they need to function in your favor rather than dismissing them is what is meant by talking less about them. Therefore, the next time you feel the desire to discuss your shortcomings, consider if this is the appropriate moment and who you should discuss it with. If the response is negative, go on, gain knowledge, develop, and let your future deeds to speak louder than words.